Sometimes the biggest lessons come from staying quiet when everyone expects you to speak. I learned this truth at 71, sitting in my kitchen while my son Marcus and his wife Jenny planned my entire future like I wasn't even there. I'll tell you everything. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Ella Payne from Killeen, Texas. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. My name is Eleanor Walsh, and it's been exactly 3 weeks since I buried my husband Frank in the little cemetery behind our church in Millfield, Vermont. 3 weeks since Frank's heart finally gave out after fighting diabetes for 10 long years. 3 weeks since I promised him at his bedside that I'd take care of myself and live the life we'd dreamed about. What I never promised was that I'd let our son Marcus take over just because Frank was gone. The day after Frank's memorial service, I woke up in our farmhouse bedroom and looked out at the maple trees he'd planted 30 years ago. Their leaves were turning bright orange and red, just like Frank always loved. My reflection in the old dresser mirror showed a woman with white hair braided down her back and green eyes that still had plenty of fight left in them. I'd gotten thinner during Frank's sickness, but I still stood tall. Being a nurse for 40 years teaches you to keep your backbone straight no matter what life throws at you. Our house felt so empty without Frank's whistling in the morning and his terrible jokes at dinner. We'd lived in this yellow farmhouse with the big front porch for 35 years. Frank had fixed every broken board, painted every wall, and planted every flower in our garden. He'd built the chicken coop where I still collected eggs each morning, and the workshop where he spent hours making wooden toys for kids at the hospital. I made pancakes the way Frank liked them, then remembered he wasn't coming down for breakfast anymore. The silence felt heavy, like a thick blanket I couldn't shake off. We used to have such wonderful routines, Frank and I. Morning coffee on the porch, evening walks down our dirt road, Sunday drives to visit the covered bridges. Simple joys that made our life together so sweet. At exactly 10 o'clock, I heard Marcus's truck crunching up our gravel driveway. My 38-year-old son climbed out wearing his work clothes from the auto shop he managed in town. Marcus had Frank's tall frame and my green eyes, but lately those eyes seemed cold, like they were calculating something I couldn't figure out. Jenny stepped down from the passenger seat in her nurse scrubs. She worked at the same hospital where I'd spent my career, though we'd never been close. Jenny was pretty in a sharp way, with short brown hair and lipstick that never seemed to smudge no matter how busy her day got. She always spoke in that fake sweet voice people use when they want something but don't want to ask directly. "Mom," Marcus said, giving me a quick hug that felt more like duty than love. "How'd you sleep?" "Fine as can be expected," I answered, noticing how his aftershave smelled nothing like Frank's Old Spice. Jenny pecked my cheek and left a sticky mark from her lip gloss. "Eleanor, you look exhausted. Are you eating enough?" "As much as I need to," I replied, wondering when my eating habits became her business. We drove to town in Marcus's pickup truck with me squeezed between them like cargo instead of their mother. I watched the familiar sights of Millfield roll by. The general store where Frank and I bought penny candy on our first date. The playground where Marcus learned to swing. The library where I'd volunteered every Tuesday for 20 years. Frank's memorial had been beautiful but small. Most of his old friends were already gone, and Marcus had kept things simple with just family and close neighbors. Pastor William spoke wonderfully about Frank's kindness and how he'd volunteered at the Children's Hospital for 15 years, making wooden toys and reading stories. What Pastor Williams didn't know, what Marcus and Jenny had no clue about, was just how successful Frank had been with his carpentry business and his smart investing over the years. I learned the full truth 4 days after we buried Frank. Frank's lawyer, Mr. Robert Chen, called to set up a meeting. Robert had handled Frank's business paperwork for 15 years, but Frank had always managed our personal money himself. He was very private about financial matters, never wanting to worry me with numbers and investments. "Private meeting," Robert had said clearly on the phone. "Just you, Eleanor." Frank's instructions were very specific about that. The appointment was set for the following Thursday, but I could already feel Frank's secrets burning in my chest like hot soup. The evening after the memorial, Marcus and Jenny stayed for supper. I'd made Frank's favorite meatloaf and mashed potatoes, keeping my hands busy so I wouldn't think too much about the empty chair at our kitchen table. We sat where Marcus had done his homework as a boy, where Frank and I had shared thousands of meals, where I'd served Thanksgiving dinner to our little family every year since Marcus was born. "Mom," Marcus began, cutting his meat into perfect squares. "Jenny and I have been discussing your situation." I put down my fork, sensing trouble in his serious tone. "We're worried about you," Jenny added, using that voice again. "Living alone in this big old house, handling everything by yourself." "I've been handling things just fine for 71 years, I said calmly. Marcus and Jenny shared one of those married couple looks. Dad took care of all the bills, the bank accounts, the house repairs, the insurance policies. That's a lot for anyone, especially someone your age. Your father taught me plenty over the years. But you shouldn't have to struggle alone, Jenny continued. We've been looking into some really nice senior communities. Beautiful places with gardens, craft rooms, medical staff available around the clock. The words hit me like ice water. Senior communities. Just to look, Marcus said quickly. Just to see what options are out there. There's this place called Golden Years Manor about 15 minutes from our house. We could visit twice a week, take you shopping, bring you home for holidays. I studied their faces across my kitchen table. Marcus with his concerned frown. Jenny with her practiced sympathy. Neither one had asked what I actually wanted. Neither had suggested I might prefer staying in the home Frank and I had built together. I'm not ready to give up living independently, I said carefully. Of course not, Jenny rushed to say. But think about the benefits. No more worrying about furnace repairs or roof leaks. No more cooking big meals if you don't feel like it. No more being isolated out here. Nothing's going to happen to me. Mom, you're not getting younger, Marcus said, and I heard irritation creeping into his voice. Dad's gone, and we're your only family now. We just want what's best for you. After they drove away, I sat in Frank's favorite armchair surrounded by 35 years of memories. The family pictures on the piano, the books we'd collected from garage sales, the quilts I'd sewn during long winter nights. This wasn't just my house. It was my life, my history, my safe place. But it was also something else, something Marcus and Jenny couldn't imagine. It was my launching pad for adventures Frank and I had always dreamed about. I walked to Frank's old desk and pulled out the envelope Mr. Chen had told me to bring to our meeting. Inside were papers Frank had left for me, papers that would change everything I thought I knew about our life together. As I read Frank's handwritten letter, I began to understand that my husband had been planning for this moment long before his final illness. He'd seen something in Marcus and Jenny that I'd been too hopeful, too trusting to notice. The letter was dated 8 months before Frank's heart attack. My darling Eleanor, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're facing choices I hope you'll never have to make. But knowing our son like I've come to know him lately, I think you will need to be strong. Marcus isn't the generous boy we raised anymore. I don't know when he changed or if we just never saw his real nature. But he looks at you now like a problem to solve instead of a person to love. Jenny has made this worse. And together they'll try to convince you that you're helpless and need their management. You are not helpless. You never were. The papers I'm leaving will show you exactly what your life is worth and what they're really after. Use this knowledge wisely. Use it to protect yourself and show them what real family love looks like. I love you, Eleanor. I believe in your strength. Always yours, Frank. My hands shook as I set the letter aside and looked at the bank statements Frank had hidden. Our little carpentry business hadn't just supported us comfortably. It had made us wealthy. Frank had been incredibly smart with money, investing every extra dollar for decades. The farmhouse was paid off completely and worth $350,000. Frank had left me his work truck and a classic 1965 Chevy Camaro he'd restored in secret, worth $45,000. But the bank account numbers made me grab the chair arm for support. $700,000 in savings with only my name on the account. Marcus and Jenny thought we lived on Frank's small pension and Social Security. They assumed the house still had mortgage payments and that I had maybe $30,000 saved up. Enough to make me worth controlling, but not enough to give me real freedom. They were wrong on every count. I folded Frank's letter carefully and locked it in the desk drawer with the other secret papers. Tomorrow I would meet with Mr. Chen and learn everything about Frank's final gift to me. Tonight I would sit in his chair and plan exactly how to handle Marcus's attempt to control my golden years. Outside, an October storm was brewing. Rain started pattering against the windows, and I could smell the earth getting ready for winter. Frank had taught me to love these autumn storms, how they cleared the air and made everything fresh again. This storm was going to clear some air too. The phone rang, breaking into my thoughts. Marcus's voice sounded cheerful but fake. "Hey Mom, just checking on you before bed. Jenny made some calls about Golden Years Manor today. They have a nice room opening up next month, and they'd love to show us around this Saturday." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of Frank's secrets and the clear picture of what lay ahead. "That's very thoughtful of you both," I said quietly. "Let me think it over." "Sure Mom, take your time. We just want you safe and happy." After I hung up, I sat in the growing darkness listening to the rain on our metal roof. Tomorrow I would discover exactly how much my freedom was worth in dollars and cents. Tomorrow I would understand the full meaning of Frank's gift and the true nature of Marcus's sudden concern. But tonight, for the first time since Frank died, I found myself smiling. The storm was coming, but I wasn't defenseless anymore. Mr. Chen's law office sat above the old bakery on Main Street, the kind of place that had watched over Millfield for 50 years while everything else changed around it. I climbed the creaky wooden stairs Thursday morning with my purse held tight and Frank's secret envelope tucked safely inside. Robert greeted me with the same gentle respect he'd always shown. At 45, he still wore the round glasses and button-down shirts that made him look like a small-town lawyer should. His handshake was warm, his smile genuine but serious. "Eleanor, please have a seat. Would you like some coffee?" "No thank you, I'm fine." I settled into the comfortable chair across from his wooden desk, the same chair where I'd sat 8 months ago while Frank updated his will. Back then I'd been the quiet wife, letting my husband handle business while I worried about his coughing fits. "Frank left very clear instructions about this meeting," Robert began, opening a thick manila folder. "He wanted you to understand your complete financial picture before." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Before you had to make any major decisions about your future." He spread documents across his desk like puzzle pieces that would show me my real life. Property deeds, bank statements, investment records, insurance papers. A money map I'd never seen before. "Your husband was an amazing man, Eleanor. Not just in how much he loved you but in how smart he was with business. He took a small carpentry shop and built it into something really special. And he invested every penny wisely. The numbers Robert showed me were incredible. Frank had sold his carpentry business 3 years ago for $800,000. Then invested that money in safe stocks and bonds. The house was worth more than I'd dreamed. The life insurance alone was worth $300,000. In total, Robert said gently, your liquid assets are about $1.1 million. The house and other property bring your total worth to approximately $1.6 million. I stared at the papers, my practical nurse's brain struggling to process it all. Frank and I had lived simply and carefully. We'd grown our own vegetables, bought used cars, shopped for clothes at thrift stores. I'd darned socks and made Frank's work shirts last for years. He wanted you to know, Robert continued, that he kept your lifestyle modest by choice, not because you had to. He believed in being prepared for anything. He also believed. Robert hesitated, then pulled out another document. He believed you might need to protect yourself from people who don't have your best interests at heart. It was another letter in Frank's careful handwriting, this one addressed to Robert. Robert, by the time Eleanor reads this, Marcus will have started pressuring her to give up her independence. I've watched our son change these past few years. Jenny's influence has made him greedy and entitled. They think Eleanor is helpless and poor. They're wrong about both things. Eleanor has the strength to handle wealth, but she might need help remembering that strength. She managed hospital wards and difficult patients for 40 years. She raised a son, ran our household, and supported my business dreams when we had nothing. She is not weak. She is not helpless, and she is not poor. Help her remember this. Help her stand strong. And if Marcus tries to take control of her life, remind him that respect works both ways. Frank Walsh. Eleanor, Robert said softly. Frank asked me to help you with whatever you decide, but he was very clear. All decisions are yours alone. I folded my hands, feeling Frank's love and trust giving me strength. What exactly did Marcus tell you when he called yesterday? Robert's eyebrows went up. I'm sorry. Marcus called you yesterday afternoon. I could tell from how he acted when Jenny got home from work. What did he want? Robert shifted uncomfortably. He said he was worried about your ability to handle finances alone. He asked about setting up a guardianship. The word felt like a slap. Guardianship. It's a legal process where someone else takes control of your money and major decisions. Marcus seemed to think it would help you, given your recent loss and He said your advanced age might make financial choices too difficult. I was 71 years old. I'd been making smart decisions since before Marcus was born. What did you tell him? I told him that would require a court hearing and clear proof of mental problems. I also said it would need your agreement or very strong medical evidence. Robert leaned forward. Eleanor, you're nowhere close to needing that kind of help. Frank knew that. The question is, do you know it? I left Robert's office with a completely new understanding of my power and a crystal clear view of Marcus's real plans. Marcus didn't want to help me manage my money. He wanted to manage my money. The senior community wasn't about my safety. It was about his control. The drive home took me past Golden Years Manor, the place Marcus and Jenny wanted to tour this weekend. It looked pleasant enough, a modern brick building with neat flower beds and a circular driveway. But it was also a cage, a place where people went to wait for death while their families spent their money. I parked in the visitor lot and sat in my car studying the building. Through the big windows, I could see residents sitting in wheelchairs watching television, their faces blank and tired. A few walked slowly down the hallways with metal walkers, taking careful, fearful steps. These weren't my people. This wasn't my future. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. So excited for Saturday's tour. They said they have a beautiful room available with a garden view. Perfect for you. I typed back, looking forward to it. But I wasn't looking forward to the tour. I was looking forward to what would happen afterward. That evening Marcus and Jenny came for dinner with a pile of brochures and Jenny's tablet loaded with information about senior living facilities. They'd expanded their search to include places in Burlington, Montpelier, even as far as New Hampshire. The wonderful thing about these communities, Jenny said, spreading colorful brochures across my kitchen table, is they handle absolutely everything. Meals, cleaning, medical care, activities. You'd never have to worry about a single thing again. Some worry keeps a person sharp, I said, serving the pot roast I'd made from Frank's grandmother's recipe. Mom, you've worried enough for 10 lifetimes, Marcus said. Dad would want you to relax and enjoy yourself now. I wondered what Marcus would say if he knew I could afford to enjoy myself for the rest of my life. I've been thinking about what I want to do now that your father's gone, I said carefully. Now I have the freedom to try new things. Exactly. Jenny's face brightened. That's what's so great about these places. They have book clubs, exercise classes, bus trips to interesting places. You could try painting or learn to play bridge. I was thinking of something more exciting, I said. Marcus paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. More exciting. Travel, maybe. Volunteer work in other countries. Your father and I always talked about seeing the world and helping people who need it. The silence that followed spoke volumes. Marcus and Jenny exchanged one of their secret married looks, the kind that say more than words. Mom, Marcus said slowly, That sounds nice in theory, but let's be realistic. You're not 25 anymore. International travel costs a fortune, and volunteer work can be really hard physically. I'm in excellent health, I replied. But what if something went wrong while you were in some remote place? Jenny added. What if you got sick in a foreign country? What if I got sick right here in Millfield? Ask back. That's different. Here you have us. Here you have doctors who know you, people who care about you. I nodded thoughtfully, pretending to consider their concerns. You make good points. Maybe I should start smaller. Volunteer locally first. Take some trips within the United States. That sounds much more reasonable, Marcus said, relief clear in his voice. Of course, I'd probably need to sell the house first. It's too big for one person, and the upkeep costs are getting expensive. Another one of those meaningful looks passed between them. Actually, Mom, Jenny said carefully, we've been talking about that too. The housing market is pretty tough right now. You might want to keep the house for a while, maybe rent it out. Rent it out. Marcus and I would be happy to handle that for you, she continued. Find good renters, collect the money, deal with any problems that come up. It would give you steady income while you're adjusting to your new life. Adjusting. Such a careful word for what they had planned for me. That's very generous of you both, I said. But I wouldn't want to burden you with that responsibility. It's not a burden, Mom. We're family. Family. They kept using that word without understanding what it really meant. After they left, I sat at my computer and started researching international volunteer programs. Frank had been right. I wasn't helpless. I'd managed emergency rooms and difficult patients for 40 years. I'd balanced tight budgets when money was scarce, organized church fundraisers, served on the school board. I'd run a household, raised a son, and supported Frank's dreams when we had nothing but hope. I was perfectly capable of managing my own adventures. The Habitat for Humanity website showed volunteer opportunities in 12 different countries. The Red Cross needed experienced medical personnel in disaster relief areas. Peace Corps had programs specifically for older volunteers with professional skills. I bookmarked a dozen possibilities and started filling out applications. If Marcus and Jenny wanted to play games with my future, I would show them exactly how high the stakes really were. My phone rang at 10:30. Marcus's voice tried to sound casual, but I could hear the worry underneath. Hey Mom, just had a thought. Maybe we should set up that financial planning meeting Jenny mentioned. You know, get a clear picture of what you're working with before you make any big decisions. What kind of big decisions? Well, you mentioned travel and volunteer work. That stuff can be really expensive, and we want to make sure you have enough money to last your whole life. I see. Robert Chen could probably recommend a good financial advisor, someone who knows about retirement planning. I almost laughed out loud. Marcus had no idea that Robert Chen already knew every detail about my financial situation. That's thoughtful of you to worry about my future. Of course we worry. We love you, Mom. Love, another word they used without understanding what it meant. I'll think about it, I said. Good. And Mom, maybe don't make any major commitments until we get this money stuff figured out, okay? Just to be safe. After I hung up, I opened Frank's desk drawer and read his letter again. Hearing his words helped me feel his presence in our quiet house. You are not helpless. You never were. Frank had seen this coming months before it happened. He'd prepared for it, trusted me to handle it, given me everything I would need to win. Tomorrow I would call 3 of the organizations I'd researched. I would schedule phone interviews, submit applications, start the process of taking back control of my life. But tonight I would plan exactly how to handle Saturday's tour of Golden Years Manor. Marcus and Jenny were about to learn that their careful scheme had one huge flaw. They'd completely underestimated the woman they were trying to control. I pulled out a notepad and started making a list. Not a list of things to pack for the senior community, but a list of questions I would ask during our tour. Questions about costs and financial requirements, and what happened when residents couldn't pay the monthly fees anymore. Questions that would reveal exactly what Marcus and Jenny really thought about my bank account. Questions that would start my education in the fine art of strategic payback. Outside, another autumn storm was building, but I wasn't afraid of it. This time I wasn't just waiting for the storm to pass. This time I was the storm. Saturday morning arrived with a kind of bright Vermont sunshine that makes even difficult conversations seem manageable. I dressed carefully for our tour of Golden Years Manor. A blue sweater Frank had loved, comfortable walking shoes, and the small silver locket my grandmother had given me. I wanted to look exactly like what Marcus and Jenny expected, a recently widowed woman who needed their guidance. They arrived at 10 sharp. Marcus in clean jeans and a button-down shirt. Jenny in a cheerful pink blouse that somehow made even a nursing home visit seem like a fun outing. Her smile was bright and encouraging, but I noticed how she quickly checked my outfit with her eyes. "You look wonderful, Mom," Marcus said, kissing my forehead. "Ready to see what they have to offer?" "As ready as anyone can be to tour their potential future," I replied. The 20-minute drive to Golden Years Manor gave me plenty of time to watch my son and daughter-in-law in action. Jenny chattered about the facility's wonderful features while Marcus added practical comments about medical care and security systems. They'd obviously done their homework and practiced their sales pitch. "The monthly fee covers everything," Jenny was saying as we pulled into the circular driveway. "All meals, housekeeping, activities, basic medical care. It's really quite reasonable when you add up what you'd spend keeping the house." "How reasonable?" asked. "About $3,500 a month," Marcus said. "I know that sounds like a lot, but when you figure in your house payments, utilities, groceries, repairs." "I don't have house payments," I said quietly. Silence filled Marcus's truck. I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. "Well, no, not mortgage payments," he said carefully. "But property taxes, insurance, maintenance. It all adds up." Inside Golden Years Manor, we were greeted by a woman named Mrs. Patricia Stone, the admissions coordinator. She looked about 55 with perfectly styled gray hair, and the kind of professional warmth that comes from years of convincing families to make hard choices. "Mrs. Walsh, what a pleasure to meet you. Marcus and Jenny have told me such lovely things." I shook her hand, noticing how firmly she gripped mine and how quickly her eyes assessed me. Health, mobility, mental sharpness. I'd seen that same evaluating look from doctors when they met new patients. "Thank you for fitting us in on such short notice," I said. "Of course. Let me show you around. I think you'll be impressed with our community." The tour started in the main lobby, a nice space with soft chairs, a reception desk, and large windows looking out on flower gardens. Residents moved through the area at the slow, careful pace of people who were afraid of falling. Some used wheelchairs, others walked independently, but all had that particular cautious way of moving that comes with age and frailty. "We have 96 residents," Patricia explained as we walked. "Independent living, assisted living, and memory care all in one location. It means you'll never have to move again, no matter how your needs change." "That's comforting," I said, watching Marcus nod his approval. We visited the dining room where lunch was being served. The food looked like hospital food, not terrible but nothing special. Baked fish, rice, steamed broccoli. The residents ate quietly, most sitting alone, a few in small groups. Some needed help from staff members who moved efficiently from table to table. 3 meals a day plus snacks, Patricia noted. "Our kitchen staff can handle most dietary restrictions and special requests." "What about residents who enjoy cooking for themselves?" "Yes. Each apartment has a small kitchenette, but honestly, most residents find it's much easier to just enjoy the freedom from meal planning and cooking." Jenny squeezed my arm. "Imagine never having to plan meals or grocery shop again. You could spend your time doing things you actually enjoy." We toured the activity rooms, a library with large print books and jigsaw puzzles, an art room where residents painted simple watercolor pictures, a game room where a group was playing bingo for prizes like travel-sized shampoo bottles. "We have a very busy social calendar," Patricia said. "Exercise classes, guest speakers, shopping trips to the mall. There's always something happening." I watched the bingo players for a moment, noting how excited they got over winning small prizes. These were people who had once run businesses, raised families, made important decisions. Now they competed for hand soap and lip balm. It looks very well organized, I said. We find that structure helps our residents feel secure and purposeful, Patricia replied. The apartment they showed us was on the 3rd floor with a nice view. It was pleasant enough. A small living room, a bedroom with a hospital-style bed, a tiny kitchen with just a microwave and mini refrigerator, and a bathroom with safety bars and a walk-in shower. This would be perfect for you, Mom, Marcus said, standing in the middle of the main room. Look at that beautiful view of the courtyard. Through the window I could see the carefully maintained grounds, flower beds, walking paths, benches placed at regular intervals. It was pretty in a postcard way, designed to be pleasant without requiring any effort. How much personal furniture can residents bring? Yes. That's an excellent question, Patricia said. We encourage residents to bring personal items that make them feel at home. A favorite chair, family photos, small keepsakes. But the apartments come fully furnished with everything you need. So there's no reason to move heavy furniture. What happens to the furniture that doesn't fit? Another brief pause. Patricia glanced at Marcus and Jenny. Families usually handle that, she said diplomatically. Storage units, donations, estate sales, whatever works best. I nodded thoughtfully, imagining 35 years of memories being sorted into piles labeled keep, donate, and trash. What about residents who want to travel, visit family, or take vacations? We're very flexible about short trips, Patricia assured me. We just need advance notice so we can plan accordingly. What about longer trips? Maybe a month or 2. Patricia's smile became slightly stiff. We'd need to discuss that case by case. The monthly fee continues regardless, of course, and we'd need to make sure your room stayed available. So I'd pay $3,500 a month even when I wasn't here? Think of it as keeping your home base secure. Jenny jumped in quickly. You'd have the peace of mind knowing you always had somewhere to come back to. After the tour, we sat in Patricia's office to discuss practical matters. She had prepared a folder with information about costs, services, and admission requirements. The basic monthly fee is $3,400, she explained, but that can increase depending on the level of care you need. If you need help with medications, personal care, or medical issues that require extra attention, there are additional charges. What's the highest monthly cost? Yes. For full memory care, it can reach $5,800 per month, but that's for residents who need complete assistance with daily living. Marcus leaned forward. What kind of financial information do you need from potential residents? We require proof that applicants can afford at least 2 years of care upfront, Patricia said. Bank statements, investment records, property values. We also like to meet with family members to make sure everyone understands the financial commitment. I watched Marcus's face carefully as she continued. 2 years up front would be about $82,000, Patricia said smoothly. It sounds like a large amount, but we find it protects both the resident and the facility. Nobody wants to worry about running out of money. Marcus cleared his throat. And if someone's finances were limited, are there assistance programs available? Medicaid can cover some costs once private resources are exhausted, but there's usually a waiting period. I could see the wheels turning in Marcus's head, calculating numbers that were completely wrong. We'll need time to think this over, I said, standing up. Of course, Patricia replied. Take all the time you need. We're here when you're ready. The drive home was quieter than the trip there. I could sense Marcus and Jenny processing what they'd learned, making plans based on assumptions that were about to blow up in their faces. So what did you think, Mom? Jenny asked as we pulled into my driveway. Very educational, I replied. I learned a lot about what my future might cost. The phone started ringing at 8 Monday morning. I was outside feeding my chickens and enjoying the crisp October air when I heard Marcus's ringtone through the kitchen window. I let it ring. He called again at 8:30, then again at 9:15. By the time I came inside to wash the egg basket, there were 5 missed calls and 3 text messages. His electronic desperation made me chuckle. I poured myself coffee and listened to his increasingly frantic voicemails. Mom, got your letter. Call me back, please. I think there's been some misunderstanding about your finances. Hey, it's me again. Jenny and I are free this morning if you want to discuss this face to face. Mom, I'm worried someone might be giving you bad financial advice. Please call me back. Okay, I'm driving over. We really need to talk about this. I was still smiling when his truck pulled into my driveway at 10:15. Marcus got out alone. Jenny was apparently at the hospital, dealing with her own crisis of expectations. He walked up to my porch with the determined stride of someone who'd spent the weekend preparing his arguments. Mom, we need to have a serious conversation, he said before I could even say good morning. Good morning to you too, Marcus. Coffee. This isn't a social visit, Mom. What's this nonsense about international volunteer work? And why are you meeting with Mr. Chen again? I led him into my kitchen, moving at my own pace, making him follow my rhythm instead of his urgency. I thought I explained that clearly in my letter. I'm exploring my options for the future. Mom, be realistic. You're 71 years old. You can't just run off to some third world country. Why not? The simple question stopped him cold. He stared at me like I'd suggested joining the circus. Because it's dangerous. Because you don't have the money for that kind of adventure. Because you have responsibilities here. What responsibilities exactly? Another pause. Marcus had clearly expected this conversation to go very differently. You have the house to maintain, bills to pay, your health to think about. And frankly, Mom, you have family who care about you and want to make sure you're safe. I poured him coffee and sat down across from him at my kitchen table. Marcus, what exactly do you think my financial situation looks like? Well, I know Dad was careful with money, but carpentry work doesn't make people rich. You have the house, probably some savings, social security, maybe a small pension. Probably some savings. Mom, I'm not trying to pry into your personal business. But if you're thinking about expensive travel and volunteer work, you need to be realistic about what you can actually afford. I studied my son's face, seeing the worry beneath his irritation. He was genuinely anxious, not about my well-being, but about the inheritance he'd been counting on. How much do you think I have, Marcus? I don't know. Maybe 40,000, 60 at most. Look, it doesn't matter exactly how much you have. What matters is making it stretch. And you think $3,500 a month at Golden Years Manor is the best way to make it stretch? I think it's the best way to make sure you're safe and cared for. And if the money ran out, Jenny and I would step in. We'd never let you become homeless or anything. I set down my coffee cup and really looked at my son. When had he become this calculating stranger? When had his concern for me become tied to managing my assets? Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I want complete honesty. Of course. If I moved to Golden Years Manor and ran out of money in 3 years, would you and Jenny really take care of me? Would you invite me to live in your house? Support me financially? The silence stretched between us like a canyon. Marcus's face went through several emotions. Surprise, calculation, something that might have been shame. Mom, that's not. We'd figure something out. There are programs, other options. That wasn't what I asked you. Look, we don't need to worry about hypotheticals right now. We just need to focus on making smart decisions with whatever resources you do have. I stood up and walked to Frank's desk, pulling out the folder Mr. Chen had given me. Marcus watched nervously as I returned to the table. I think it's time you understood exactly what resources I actually have, I said, opening the folder and spreading the financial documents across the table. Bank statements, investment summaries, property valuations, insurance policies. Marcus's eyes got wider as he processed the numbers. This can't be right, he said, picking up a bank statement. This says you have over $700,000 in this one account alone. Your father was a very successful businessman, Marcus. He was also a very private man who believed in living modestly. Marcus stared at the papers, his face cycling through shock, confusion, and something that looked like betrayal. You're rich. You're actually wealthy. I'm financially secure. I have enough money to live however I choose for the rest of my life. But you let Jenny and me. He stopped, realizing what he was about to admit. I let you what, Marcus? You let us worry about you. You let us think you needed our help managing things. You offered to help. I never asked for it. But you knew what we were thinking. You knew we were trying to find ways to take care of you. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of this moment. Marcus, tell me honestly. If you'd known about this money, would you still have suggested Golden Years Manor? Another long silence. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. If you'd known I had over $1.5 million, would you have been so worried about my safety? Would you have been so eager to help me manage my finances? Marcus's face was red now, his composure cracking. You're being unfair. We were trying to help you. Help me with what? Help me sell my house so you could manage the money. Help me move into a facility where you could control my decisions. Help me plan a future that had nothing to do with what I actually wanted. You're twisting everything around. We were thinking about your future, your safety. No, Marcus, you were thinking about your future. You were thinking about the inheritance you expected to get, and you were making plans based on that expectation. He stood up abruptly, pacing to my kitchen window. So what? You were testing us. Playing some kind of game. I was observing. I was learning. I was discovering what kind of people my son and daughter-in-law really are. And what did you discover? I gathered the financial documents and placed them back in the folder. I discovered that you see me as a burden to be managed rather than a person to be loved. I discovered that your concern comes with strings attached. I discovered that you have no interest in what would make me happy. Only in what you think is best for me. That's not true, isn't it? When I mentioned wanting to travel, to volunteer overseas, to have adventures, what was your reaction? Did you ask what would make me happy? Did you offer to help me research opportunities? Did you show any interest in what I might want to do with my life? Marcus turned from the window, his face hard. You're 71 years old, Mom. You're not some college kid who can just run off and save the world. Why not? Because you're old. Because you're alone. Because you don't understand how dangerous the world can be. I understand exactly how dangerous the world is, Marcus. I also understand that the biggest danger in my life right now is giving up my independence to people who don't have my best interests at heart. The words hung in the air between us like a verdict. Marcus stared at me, his face mixing anger with something that might have been fear. So what happens now? He asked quietly. Now you and Jenny decide what kind of relationship you want to have with me. A relationship based on honesty and respect for my independence, or no relationship at all. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm giving you a choice. The same choice you gave me when you decided I was too old and too confused to manage my own life. Marcus sat back down, his shoulders sagging. For a moment he looked like the little boy I'd raised, lost and uncertain. Then his expression hardened again. So you're just going to abandon your family, run off to Africa or wherever and leave behind the people who love you? The people who love me would want me to be happy. They would support my dreams, encourage my independence, celebrate my adventures. They wouldn't try to lock me away in a senior community so they could control my assets. We never said anything about controlling your assets. You offered to manage the sale of my house, handle my rental income, help me make financial decisions. What would you call that? Marcus was quiet for a long time, staring at his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I thought you needed us. I thought we were helping. You thought I was helpless and poor. You thought you could make decisions for me because I was too old and too confused to make them myself. That's not what I thought. Then what did you think, Marcus? What was your plan? He looked up at me, And for the first time in years I saw something real in his eyes. Not calculation or manipulation, but genuine emotion. I thought you were going to die alone in this house. I thought you were going to get sick or hurt and have nobody to help you. I thought you needed me to take care of you the way you took care of Dad. And the money. The inheritance. His face closed off again. I don't know what you want me to say about that. I want you to tell me the truth. Fine. Yes, I thought about the inheritance. Yes, I wondered what would happen to the house, to Dad's things, to whatever money was left after your care. But that doesn't mean I didn't care about you. It means you cared about me as a responsibility, not as a person. It means you made assumptions about what I needed without ever asking what I wanted. Marcus stood up again, his composure returning. So what do you want, Mom? What's your grand plan? I smiled, feeling the weight of Frank's secrets lifting from my shoulders. I want to live, Marcus. I want to travel. I want to help people who need help. I want to use my remaining years to make a real difference in the world. And if something happens to you, if you get sick or hurt in some foreign country, then I'll deal with it. The same way I dealt with your father's illness. The same way I've dealt with every challenge in my 71 years. And us. What about Jenny and me? That depends on you. If you can accept that I'm an independent woman with my own plans and dreams, then you'll always be welcome in my life. If you can't, I shrugged. Then you'll have to live with the consequences of your choices. Marcus walked toward the door, then turned back. Mom, I'm sorry if we handled this wrong, but we really were trying to help. I know you were, Marcus. That's what makes it so heartbreaking. After he left, I sat in my quiet kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of Frank's love and Marcus's betrayal. The documents spread across the table represented more than financial security. They represented freedom, possibility, the chance to become someone completely new. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Chen. Robert, it's Eleanor. I'm ready to start making some major changes. What kind of changes? I want to set up accounts for international volunteer work. I want to understand tax implications for extended overseas travel. And I want to make sure my will reflects my true intentions. And Marcus, have you spoken with him about your plans? I looked out the window at Frank's vegetable garden, where autumn was painting the world in shades of gold and crimson. Marcus has made his choice, Robert. Now it's time for me to make mine. The battle was over. I had won, but victory felt bittersweet, tainted by the cost of learning who my son really was. Tomorrow I would begin planning my new adventure. Tonight I would grieve the loss of the family I thought I had. 8 months later, I stood on a hillside in rural Guatemala, watching the sunrise over a village where my medical relief team had just finished setting up a temporary clinic. My hands were dusty, my clothes stained with mud and sweat, my gray hair pulled back under a baseball cap that read, Vermont Strong. I had never felt more alive. The WhatsApp message on my phone buzzed persistently. Marcus again. I'd received dozens of messages over the past 8 months. Angry ones, pleading ones, manipulative ones, and finally desperately apologetic ones. I glanced at the screen. Mom, Jenny lost the baby. We really need you to come home. Please. I turned off the phone and slipped it into my pocket. The irony wasn't lost on me. Now that they were facing real grief, real loss, real emotional needs, suddenly they remembered they had a mother. Senora Eleanor, called Maria, a 12-year-old girl who'd appointed herself my translator and assistant. Come quickly. The family wants to thank you again. I walked over to where the Hernandez family stood outside the small clinic we'd built. A simple wooden structure with a metal roof, 2 rooms, and basic medical equipment. Sophia, the mother, took my hands and spoke rapidly in Spanish while her husband Carlos translated. She says you are an angel sent by God. She says her children will remember your kindness always. I looked at their 4 children, ages 3 to 14, who now had access to basic health care for the first time in their lives. Clean water, vaccines, treatment for infections that could have killed them. This was what wealth was for. This was what Frank's inheritance truly meant. Tell her it's my privilege to help, I said, accepting the small woven bracelet Sophia pressed into my hands. That evening I sat on the porch of our volunteer housing, typing on my laptop. The internet connection was weak, but I managed to post my weekly blog entry to the website I'd started. Silver Adventures, One Widow's Journey to Freedom. The blog had attracted thousands of followers. Other widows looking for courage, adult children dealing with elderly parents, people of all ages questioning their life choices. I'd become an unexpected voice for late-life reinvention. Week 32 in Guatemala. Today we treated our 200th patient. 200 people now have hope where they once had despair. But I'm not writing to tell you about them. I'm writing to tell you about me. 8 months ago, I was a widow facing pressure to give up my independence. My family offered me safety, a nice room in a senior facility, people to handle my affairs, protection from life's uncertainties. All I had to give up was my freedom, my dreams, and my right to choose my own path. Chose differently. I chose uncertainty over safety, adventure over comfort, purpose over convenience. Many of you have asked if I'm angry at my son. The answer is complex. I'm not angry. Anger is exhausting and I have no time for it. I'm disappointed, yes. I'm sad, absolutely. But I'm not angry. What I am is free. Free to wake up each morning and decide how to spend my day. Free to use my resources to make a real difference. Free to discover parts of myself I never knew existed. At 71, I'm stronger than I was at 40. I'm more confident than I was at 50. I'm more purposeful than I was at 60. Age is not a sentence to irrelevance. Widowhood is not a sentence to loneliness. Family expectations are not a sentence to compliance. You're never too old to reinvent yourself. You're never too set in your ways to change course. You are never too far from shore to sail toward a new horizon. Next week I fly to Honduras to begin a 2-month assignment with Doctors Without Borders. I'll be managing supplies for a mobile medical unit that serves remote mountain villages. It's demanding work, but it's work that matters. After that, I'm considering an offer to teach health education in the Philippines. At 72, I'll be the oldest volunteer in the program. I can't wait. The security my family offered me was an illusion. The only real security is knowing you can take care of yourself, that you have the resources, the skills, and the courage to face whatever comes. Have all three now. I have the financial resources Frank left me, the professional skills I developed over 40 years of nursing, and the courage I found within myself. To those of you facing similar pressures, trust yourself. Trust your instincts. Trust your right to live your life on your terms. The people who truly love you will support your choices even when they don't understand them. The people who don't, well, their opinions matter less than you think. From Guatemala, with love and hope, Eleanor. I posted the blog entry and closed my laptop. My phone buzzed with another message from Marcus, but I ignored it. Tomorrow I would fly to Guatemala City, then to Tegucigalpa, then to a remote village in the Honduran mountains where people needed medical care more than I needed family drama. The stars over Guatemala were magnificent, unpolluted by city lights or urban noise. I sat in the peaceful darkness, thinking about Frank, about the gift he'd given me, about the life I'd built from the ashes of his death. Frank had known somehow. He'd seen what I couldn't see. That Marcus and Jenny would try to control me, would try to turn me into a problem to be solved rather than a person to be cherished. He'd given me the tools to fight back, to choose my own adventure. My phone rang, not Marcus this time, but an unknown number with a Vermont area code. Hello, Mrs. Walsh. This is Patricia Stone from Golden Years Manor. I'm calling about your son. I sat up straighter. What about him? He's been calling repeatedly asking about our financial assistance programs. He seems to think that you might need our services soon. I almost laughed out loud. I see. I wanted you to know that we never discuss residents or potential residents with family members without written permission, but he's been quite insistent. Thank you for letting me know, Patricia. I appreciate your discretion. Mrs. Walsh, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I follow your blog. What you're doing is truly inspiring. You're showing people that life doesn't end at 70. Thank you, Patricia. That means everything to me. Your son mentioned that you're working overseas now. Is it everything you hoped for? I looked out at the Guatemalan night sky, listened to the sounds of the village settling into peaceful sleep, felt the deep satisfaction of a day spent healing and helping. It's more than I hoped for, I said. It's everything I didn't know I needed. After I hung up, I thought about Patricia's call. Marcus was still trying to control the story, still trying to create a crisis that would justify his interference. The idea of him calling senior facilities, painting me as a confused old woman who needed rescue, would have devastated me 8 months ago. Now it just seemed pathetic and sad. I opened my laptop and started typing a new email. Dear Marcus and Jenny, I was sorry to hear about your loss. Losing a pregnancy is heartbreaking, and I know you're both grieving. I understand that you're reaching out because you need support during this difficult time. But I need you to understand something important. I am not your emotional safety net. I am a 71-year-old woman living exactly the life I choose to live. I am healthy, purposeful, and productive. I am using my time and resources to help people who desperately need help, to make a difference in places where difference matters most. I am not lost, confused, or in need of rescue. I am free. If you want a relationship with me, it must be based on mutual respect and acceptance. You will not attempt to manage my life, control my finances, or make decisions for me. You will not call senior facilities on my behalf or spread stories about my mental capacity. If you can accept these terms, you are welcome to contact me. If you cannot, then I wish you healing and hope you find the strength to solve your problems without depending on others to fix them for you. I love you both, but I love myself more. Eleanor. P.S. I'm updating my will. The house will go to Habitat for Humanity when I die. My savings will be divided between medical charities and a scholarship fund for older adults who want to volunteer abroad. I wanted you to know so you can plan your lives accordingly. I sent the email and closed my laptop. The lie about the will was strategic. Let them think their inheritance was gone. Let them face the reality of building their own security without my money as a backup plan. In truth, I hadn't decided what to do with my estate yet. But I had decided one thing. Whatever I left behind would go to people who valued what I was trying to accomplish, not to people who saw me as a problem to be managed. The next morning I packed my bags for Honduras. 8 months in Guatemala had taught me that I was capable of far more than I'd ever imagined. I could adapt to new cultures, learn new languages, solve problems I'd never encountered. I could be valuable, important, useful. Not because of what I owned, but because of what I could contribute. As the plane lifted off from Guatemala City, I thought about the woman I'd been 8 months ago. Grieving, uncertain, vulnerable to manipulation. That woman was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized but deeply respected. At the airport in Tegucigalpa, I checked my phone for the first time in 24 hours. 17 missed calls from Marcus, 8 from Jenny, and 1 email from Mr. Chen. Eleanor, I've been contacted by Marcus regarding your mental competency and your ability to manage your affairs. I want you to know that I refuse to discuss your situation with him, and that I consider you completely capable of making your own decisions. However, you should know he's considering legal action to establish a guardianship. Please contact me when you can. Best regards, Robert. I stared at the email, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Pure, cold anger. Not the hot rage of the moment, but the calculated fury of someone who'd been pushed beyond their limit. Marcus wanted to have me declared mentally incompetent. He wanted to seize control of my life through legal manipulation. I opened my laptop and began typing a new blog post, my final message to my son. Some of you have asked what I would do if my family tried to force me back into the life I escaped. Today I learned that my son is attempting to have me declared mentally incompetent so he can control my financial affairs. He calls it concern for my welfare. I call it what it is, attempted theft. But I'm not writing to complain. I'm writing to thank him. His actions have given me the clarity I needed about what to do with my inheritance. I came to Central America to find purpose, and I found it. I came to find meaning and I discovered it. I came to find freedom and I claimed it. But I also found absolute clarity about my legacy. My son sees my money as his birthright. He sees my independence as a threat to his inheritance. He sees my happiness as irrelevant to his needs. He's right about one thing: my money is going to help people. Just not the people he expected. I'm 71 years old. I have 15 or 20 good years left, maybe more. I intend to spend every single one of them working, traveling, learning, contributing. And when I die, every penny I have will go to organizations that help people become who they're meant to be, rather than who others expect them to be. My son wanted my money. Instead, he's going to get a lesson in consequences. The greatest gift you can give your children isn't your wealth. It's your example of how to live with courage and purpose. I hope my son learns from mine. From Honduras, with love and liberation, Eleanor. I posted the blog entry and turned off my laptop. Tomorrow I would call Mr. Chen and make the changes to my will official and permanent. Tonight I would sleep under the Central American stars, dreaming of the incredible life I'd built from the ruins of the one I'd left behind. Outside my window, the sounds of Tegucigalpa settled into evening quiet. Somewhere in Vermont, Marcus was probably planning his next move, strategizing with Jenny about how to control a woman who'd already escaped beyond his reach. Let him plan and scheme all he wants. Let him discover that the woman he'd tried to warehouse was stronger, smarter, and more determined than he'd ever imagined possible. I was Eleanor Walsh, and I was finally, completely, gloriously free. The war was over and I had won. The victory was sweeter than I could have ever dreamed. That's my story, friends. That's how I learned that the greatest inheritance isn't money or property. It's the courage to live life entirely on your own terms. If you're facing similar pressure from family members who think they know what's best for you, remember this. You are stronger than they believe, more capable than they imagine, and more valuable than they'll ever understand. Don't forget to subscribe to Granny's Voice and comment below to tell me what country you're watching from. And remember, my dear viewers, it's never ever too late to start completely over and build the life you were always meant to live. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I'll see you in the next video with another story of courage, independence, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to let others define their limits. Until then, keep living your truth, not someone else's expectations. This is Eleanor from Granny's Voice, signing off from Honduras with love, hope, and absolute freedom.